I had a lot of arrogance for sure.
About what? That, oh, I made cold mess.
People don't like realize it because it doesn't show up in public, because there's also this layer of anxiety which like makes me like withdrawn a little bit. I started performing live because it was a great way to make money. People loved my live shows. I was very surprised because I was conventionally never a good performer, and I got a lot of feedback in the beginning also saying like, you don't talk to your audiences and you don't like tell any anecdotes. And I was like, yeah, that's all I can do. I'm feeling very energetic this year, actually. That's like the thing. Like I'm like roaring to go.
They say music is what feelings sound like. If you get to know Prateek Kuhad on a personal level, you'll know what a deep human being he is. His music, his lyrics, his art is coming out of a place inside his heart, which is very real, very vulnerable. And I tried bringing out that vulnerability through this conversation. I absolutely love any conversation I have with this man, but what I love the most about him is that he's one of the most self-aware men that I know personally. He's someone I'm proud to call a friend. He's someone I'm proud to podcast with. He's an absolute joy to speak to in general. This is Prateek Kuhad on The Ranveer Show. All right, Mr. Kuhad, coming out of the new single. Welcome to Mumbai. Welcome to The Ranveer Show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
How are you, brother?
Good, bro. Good.
You know, there's a lot of things people don't know about you,
Mhm.
which I have the privilege of knowing because I've partied with you
Mhm.
and I've heard your stories and your perspectives. You're a deep guy, man. You're a deep guy. And you don't acknowledge it often.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, in the last conversation we did, which was an online podcast, I asked you some pretty deep questions and you'd always begin it with, man, I don't know, and then proceed to give like a really deep answer.
I saw there was like a bunch of comments about that on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like literally what you were saying right now, there were people saying Prateek starts with saying, I don't know, and then gives like a deep ass answer. Yeah, I guess so. But I do really feel like that. I feel I don't know about most things in life. And I think like everybody's really like that. It doesn't feel comfortable to not know, actually. You know, uncertainty is hard to deal with. But at the same time, I feel like if you don't have that sense a little bit, you kind of stop learning at some point, you know. And so I genuinely, and I don't do it as a practice, but I genuinely usually feel like, you know, I don't feel 100% about everything, you know. I take a chance sometimes, and sometimes it's kind of like probabilities, you know. Like I feel very, very sure about something, maybe, but there's always a doubt about anything you do, right? In that sense.
Bro, speaking about doubts about everything we do, you're an artist. I think the blessing of being an artist is the creativity you're gifted with. The curse of being an artist is that sometimes the creativity can work against you and become overthinking. Do you deal with things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I've had a lot of clarity on. This thing it's very important. It's funny that you brought it up because it's something I've dealt with for a long time, and something that has given, I've gotten a lot of clarity on in the past, like 3 to 4 years, you know, because like you said, the artistic process, you know, there's a lot of value to perfection for sure. And there's this, like, especially around artists and great art, there's this narrative of like perfection behind it. And it is very, very important. But at the same time, like you rightly said, it can very easily go into the overthinking territory and self-doubt territory. And the key is like striking a balance, and it's hard. It actually ends up hampering your progress in the long term. In the short term, you feel like, you know, let me obsess about this frame in the music video another 10 minutes, or like this song another like 3 days, or like delay my like release date because I'm not feeling great about it. And in the short term, it feels like, you know, like you're doing your art justice. And that's true to a certain degree, but beyond a point, it becomes like, you don't realize it, but subconsciously it becomes an excuse, which is kind of driven by fear. You know, you don't want to either put that stuff out completely, or you're not sure about it, or you're finding reasons to pretty much fail, you know, because human beings have this tendency to kind of like, you know, tend to like self-destruct a little bit, you know. So you have to be careful about that. That's all.
You know what I love about you, dude? Like, you're really real as a person. Like, there's no layers. Like, you're the same guy when someone meets you outside. You're the same guy on podcasts. And I know you don't like being spoken about. You don't like being under the spotlight. But you're one of the most real dudes I've come across in the media industry in general, man. And I also feel that that's why you're gifted as an artist. We had A.R. Rahman on the show, and I asked him, how do you keep coming up with tunes? Like, how do you keep coming up with tunes that then blow up, you know, on in the world? And what he said is, he really focuses on humility as a concept. He's inspired by Sufism and all that. And one of the key, like, kind of verticals of Sufism is humility. Like, they keep comparing an artist to a beggar. And they say that as an artist, you're like a beggar holding a beggar's bowl. And you have to constantly perceive the bowl as being empty. And the meaning of that is, I don't know anything. There's nothing inside my heart. There's nothing inside my mind. So please, universe, or please, higher power, put some more into my beggar's bowl. And that's how he looks at his music. In terms of tunes are just like placed into his beggar's bowl. And as long as he keeps it empty, there's space for more. He also spoke about how he's dealt with like phases of arrogance where arrogance started like rising, but then he had to like calm down and all that. Dude, with you, I've known you for like 3 years now and you're the same guy. I've seen how people treat you in public. You know, there's a lot of attention that's directed towards you. When you're in a room, it's people pointing at you saying, yo, Prateek Kuhad's in this room. But you're that same dude. And that's what I genuinely love about hanging out with you as a person. Forget that you're Prateek and all. Just as a bro, you're a great dude to be around. What is the source of that?
I don't know. That's I said I don't know again. But apparently I do know. So I genuinely started doing this because I love doing what I do. And like I've had a lot of anxiety, through my 20s. Like and I never tried to hide it, actually, because I was just like, I was also really committed to being this person who was completely honest, like just absolutely honest, just bare. Like I've really did practice that. And it's funny, this thing that you're talking about, like what A.R. Rahman said, like in a different way, like it's been kind of my philosophy as well. Like I feel like as a songwriter, like, and as an artist overall, not just like any sort of an artist, it's not just about like the technicalities of it, right? Like if I'm writing a song, like there's 1,000 people who can write a song, and the technical side, there's many other people understand. But what am I like when I'm putting out my art, what am I doing that's really special? What's really special is that it's me, and I can only do me if I'm like 100% honest, right? And the moment you start being dishonest externally, it ends up creeping in internally a little bit. And the problem is when you become dishonest with yourself, that's when you start losing touch with your art. I suspect that.
When you say dishonest, you mean kind of playing it for the crowd, like
anything, just having layers, like just even being like I think like not facing your fears, not facing your insecurities, maybe that's a form of dishonesty, right? Because you're not completely you're not like admitting to yourself or to people that this is how I am. Like I have anxieties, or like I'm insecure, I'm jealous, all of these things. And that as a practice I try to do more. It's not perfect in the sense you actually do end up lying and like putting up a front and having masks anyway, but you strive for that. So I've always like tried to strive for this, like, really like honesty, because I feel like that's how I can actually like, then when I'm writing a song, I'm actually writing a song that's real as hell, right? And that's important to me. I want to be as real as possible, because otherwise it's just like not believable, actually. And that's some sense of like everything that's incredible, whether it's like film or like music or like paintings. It's like it doesn't put you into like, you can believe it, you can only believe it when it's real.
You've kind of given out like an outlook on an artist's mind. And let's speak the truth. Artists who find mainstream success also find mainstream money, but it's often because of the art that came out of their heart. And what you've spoken about is about the core of being an artist, that if you're completely in sync with what's on the inside, you will find pieces of art just stuck to the walls of your heart. That's what I feel. Yeah. And I have a friend, he's a mentor to me. His name is Zakir Khan. He's a stand-up comic, but he's a writer, he's a poet. And there's so many things he said to me. I mentioned him so much on the show. I have to like share this one anecdote. Okay, so he had welcomed me to his new place. Amazing, beautiful. It was his dream house. great energy, all that. And we were talking about life in general, because even we know each other now for like 5-6 years. And he said that he's gone through a phase of seeing like a lower middle class life. He has relatives who basically lived in slums. He's seen all kind of layers of society through his life. And he's like, at the layer we are at as artists, we tweet and we get paid. We put an Instagram post and we get paid. We write something on a piece of paper and we get paid for that.
Right.
So this, I don't even know if you can perceive this as hard work. And it kind of makes me think about the life of an artist weirdly. Like we're the kids that survived. Fortunately, like the art that's popping inside our heart is what the world finds as what the world thinks of as mainstream. So we're really lucky to be artists. And
Correct.
people have this outlook on being an artist that, fancy, glamorous life. But there's a lot of shit you deal with to constantly put that art out as well.
Yeah.
Correct. Do you feel that way about, say, something like Cold Mess, which I feel, looking from the outside in, it was sort of a pivotal point in your journey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It changed a lot of your trajectory. But you were a musician even before that. And one fine day, Cold Mess just pops in your head, you hear a tune, you develop it over time, and things completely change for you. How do you look at this whole situation?
I agree with a lot of what you were saying about like what how Zakir puts it. I've lived through the indie music industry, right? And it's small, and I've seen like successes, but I've also seen a lot of failures. And I think like people don't see a lot of that,
Publicly, they don't.
Publicly from the outside, and like people don't actually notice failures that much. And there's something to learn from that also, in that sense, that like what went wrong, right? Like what happened? Because I know so many talented musicians in the indie scene who, over 10-year period, like didn't really get anywhere, right? And then when you meet them and see them, you see like it's not just about the art, it's also about like the attitude, about what they're putting behind, everything that they're doing, the legwork, literally, right? And one thing that I feel, which I don't know, I really feel strongly about this. I feel it's like you, at some level, you get what you want in life. A lot of people just don't want it. Strangely enough, you would think outside in that like any musician in a certain capacity would want mainstream success, but there's so many people who don't want it, or they're deluding themselves to think that they don't want it because they're too scared of not getting it. That's another thing. So it's like psychologies of people as I've met them over the years has been very interesting to see, like, and that's kind of like loosely the connection between like the creative aspect and the mainstream success. There's very few people who go that side because it's really hard and it needs a lot more other than the creative side. And thirdly, you need to keep that creative side alive. It's very important, because if you lose that, then like you can do all that other like legwork and it wouldn't matter, because you got to keep compartmentalize and keep yourself a bit of an artist, but at the same time like do these other things which like a bit more capitalistic in nature maybe.
Yeah. I think that aspect of capitalism that you're speaking about is constantly keeping at it, like doing one thing after another, not just putting out one great piece of art, but moving on to the next one.
Correct.
Is that what you did, dude? Because you broke out of that scene. So, I mean, you're the breakout guy, and that's how a lot of people look at you. I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot, man. I know this is not a vibe for you, but I'd want to know what you did right.
I think like, I don't feel like I've fully broken. I think I have a long way to go still. I definitely like maxed out like the indie scene for sure, which in terms of like just it's how much it has to offer commercially. We're talking very like, bluntly straight terms right now. But how I did it, like, I think it's that what I said. Like I wanted it. I wanted it. Like there's a lot of people, my peers, friends of mine in the indie scene who I've worked with over the years, who like we've had conversation, and it's very like creatively fulfilling, but at some level there was always this like kind of disdain for mainstream, and I was just like, why? You can have mainstream success and make really good work. Why is there this narrative that those two things are mutually not compatible? So I always like have had that philosophy that I am going to do well and I'm going to make amazing art.
What's the story behind Cold Mess, dude? Like if it was the breakout, so maybe there's lessons in the story.
I believe I started writing it like on the piano maybe, and then moved to the guitar. A lot of times I do both also, like back and forth. But yeah, I remember like last year or 2 years ago, I was listening to the oldest voice note that I have of the song, and the chorus was totally different. I've forgotten what it was, but it wasn't like "I wish I could leave you, my love, but my heart is a mess." It was like "I wish I could leave you, my love, but something." It was something I can't remember, but it was not like that great basically. And I remember like there was these 3-4 iterations of the voice note where it was just that, and then someday, and then I noticed like after 2-3 days there was this one voice note where for the first time I say, "I wish I could leave you, my love, but my heart was a mess," and it just stayed there. So I think what I find, and this is something I find exhilarating about the songwriting process, that it's like this one phrase that just, it has so much meaning in it, like that's when you strike gold with a song, and not money wise, but I mean like in terms of like the impact that a song has, and like how beautiful a song can get, like is when you are able to compress like a bunch of like complicated emotions and feelings and ideas and stories in like one line. And that's just so stunning to me. I mean, like I have to say all these words to explain to you something.
Go for it.
But no. What I'm saying is like I have to explain, like if I'm telling you a story or trying to explain a concept, I have to say so much sometimes. But sometimes a song can do that in literally a line, which just, that's what I love about being a songwriter.
Because every great song is a poem before it becomes a song, dude.
Yeah.
And poetry comes from a very deep place.
Yeah.
Often inspired by real life events. So I have to ask you the masaledar question here. Was it inspired by a breakup, dude?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole, and that's why it did pop up in my head, but like I was going through a phase where I was writing a lot of breakup songs.
Because you were healing?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was healing or not. But
I mean, that's what art is, dude. For a lot of artists, it's a form of healing. It helped me a lot, dude. Like, it helped me heal. Like I actually discovered that song when I was going through.
Oh, the song.
Cold Mess specifically. It first made me face my pain too much, and then it made me heal, dude. So I think that's why the song has taken off also. You've helped a lot of people heal out there through your own healing.
Yeah, maybe.
That's where the commercial success comes in, Mr. Kuhad.
Yeah, but I mean, like I was saying, I was writing a lot of songs that time. That was all about breakups, and like this was just one of them, actually. And the way it happens is that like I always like work on songs in two ways, either in the studio by myself in terms of producing it, or like with my band and we play it live, sometimes both. And then I get a sense of how the song is based on how people react. I actually like still find myself pretty clueless about like, what's good and what's not. So it's a bit of testing. Now I'm getting better at it. But Cold Mess was one of those songs. The first time we ever played it live, it was just like people were singing along by the second chorus already and like cheering like crazy. It was, we were just like, I was just like, whoa, this is definitely something special. That's why I have like literally probably like 10,000 voice notes on my iPhone, because I'm always recording. Like anytime I sit down to write, and if something starts coming out, I'll just put on the recorder and like just keep going, because because a lot of stuff comes and words come and I literally forget it a second later. I don't know what I said. Like it's like blank, gone, and it has happened so many times that I'm not recording something and I like play something and I'm like, whoa, that was awesome. And then a split second later, I'm like, wait, what was that? Like, I have no idea. And I can't remember like, all I can remember is how good it felt. So maybe it is some sort of, it pops in and it pops out,
Have you seen Soul? Pixar Soul?
Yeah.
Did you feel visually connected as a musician when you saw Soul? Like does the same shit happen to you when you go into your flow state? Do you feel like you've entered like a blue kind of heaven?
Oh yeah. Now now I was trying to remember like what particularly, but yeah, definitely.
What impact did it have on you as a musician? It had a lot of impact on me as an artist and a writer, but a musician probably connects with soul very differently.
I think it's like, I also like, honestly, I also over the years I've started thinking of myself. I feel more like an artist versus just a musician now. And this is just like my way of expressing, because this is what I'm good at technically, So these are the tools I have, so I use it. But ultimately, like I think like what the value that I bring is like ideas, in some sense. And in that sense, I feel like we're like the same people, like you and me that way too. Like you're also like what you bring yourself, That's what you bring that has tremendous value. It's you, your ideas. So
I don't know if I want to call it my ideas. I probably pull ideas from the higher net.
yeah,
Dude.
sure.
And I think you do the same.
You're a conduit in that sense. Yeah.
Conduit
And
means like channel.
like
right?
a channel. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dude, that's the older I get as a content creator, as a writer, the more conscious I am of the fact that these ideas are probably not mine. Like they're just meant to come out through me because of the experiences that I've had in life or
Right.
whoever I've become now. Now I'm eligible for that new idea. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what gives me a lot of peace as an artist also. We had Jubin Nautiyal on the show. He said the same thing. And he's seen a lot of rejection, failure, traumas. He's just dealt with it positively. And at the end of it, he's like, dude, I reached a point in my early 30s where he said this. I've reached a point in my early 30s where I figured that as long as you're connected to your inner art, that art will carry your career through. It'll ensure you get material success. It'll ensure your comfortable life. But you have to be very in sync with that. And even he spoke with the higher net. And most successful musicians say the same thing. Like it's some form of the same statement. You once told me a very interesting story about your time in Bali.
Oh,
Which changed you a lot as a person.
yeah.
I think you're a fantastic storyteller, and this is something that people don't know about you.
Yeah.
But
I can talk about it.
yeah,
if you want.
share that story, dude.
So because we were talking about spirituality, like, to give context, I was actually not very spiritual before this Bali trip that we're talking about. Like, I mean, I had some sense of it, but I didn't really believe in a lot of like the things that, yoga says or their spirituality. And I visited Bali with a friend of mine who's very, a fairly advanced yogi, I would say. Like she's been like doing yoga and like, breath works and stuff for a very long time. So me and her went and, I wanted to go surf. And I was like, yo, I'm not into this yoga stuff. I'm going to surf. You do your yoga. The first day I went for surfing, like I was terrified. I was like, I can't do this because I felt like I was going to die. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll come for these yoga classes for you because like, I think I'm going to skip surfing this time. And that's it. Like I did like yoga every day. We were there for about a week, like 3 classes a day. Like we were just doing that, like hanging out, getting nice food and like going for like different kinds of yoga classes. And the third day there was this like, there was this tantric yoga class. Okay. A lot of people associate tantric yoga with like sex. It's, it does like involve your sexual energies as well, but it's not just that. It basically is a form of like kind of like, the little that I understand of it, like, energy flows through your body. And that just like, I don't know, I had like an outer body experience with that.
Do you want to explain the experience a little bit?
Man, it was just like, that's what like tipped me to the edge where I was just like, whoa, there's something going on in this world that we do not understand, because like I felt like it just started with breathworks and there was a lot of like, there was good energy in the class. The teacher, the yoga teacher who was kind of doing it, she had a lot of good energy, you could tell. And I was at the beginning of the class a little skeptical because I was like, okay, this is a bit like hocus pocus, But around 15 minutes into like, doing the breathing exercises and the yoga postures, like I literally felt like my body was violently vibrating. Like it was like, I was like, what is going? It took me by surprise. Like literally I felt like this energy kind of starting from like, my stomach and just like going like into my spine and up my spine. And I was like, what's going on here? Everybody, like when they woke up from this kind of, whatever this experience, had like crazy stories to tell. And it's just like, there's no explanation for it. I did not drink anything before the class. It's not like, like you would say that they gave something to me, which was like a hallucinogenic or something. Nothing of that sort. I was completely sober through that trip. Like only thing we would drink, whatever, have a drink or something the previous night. But I'm just saying there was no stimulants in my body at all, especially that day. So there is no explanation, right? Like this was purely done through like yogic practices, clearly. So and these kind of things, like it's not like now I'm like, completely like always looking for, something like extraordinary or fantastical. I'm still very much rooted and grounded in the real world, but it really opens your mind about the possibilities that they are, and like you are just less judgmental. You just realize that like humans are so layered and complex that like judging anybody or anything is just actually a waste of time beyond a point.
Also, we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know. Absolutely.
Intense. Do you look back at that as some sort of a turning point kind of experience? In terms of, do you feel some other creative layer got unlocked inside you? Or has there been an experience like that where you feel some higher level of creativity has gotten unlocked?
Honestly, no. I don't feel like it's maybe I'm not as self-aware as I should be. I mean, it is one of the things that changed me as a person over the past like 4 years. You know, this actually happened after Cold Mess. Like this was in 2019. And I have written, you know, stuff after that. We've gone through a pandemic. A lot has happened in the world. I'm a very different person. And it's like one of the steps that, you know, like I think opened my mind to a lot of like blocks and like rigidities that I had. I had a lot of like, you know, I had a lot of arrogance for sure, actually, before that.
Really?
A lot of people don't like realize it because, you know, it doesn't show up in public, because there's also this layer of anxiety, which like makes me like, you know, a little like, just kind of like, you know, withdrawn a little bit. But there was a lot of arrogance I had about my art, about like me also as a person.
About what? That, oh, I made Cold Mess.
Even before that, actually, like I've had a lot of like arrogance since I was a kid, in some sense, in a weird sense. Like it kind of works in tandem, you know. You feel insecure and anxious, and you use like arrogance as one of the tools of dealing with that, actually, because it makes you feel a little more powerful. It's not a good tool to use, but I did use that at times, you know.
Yeah, no, I've been through that.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that a lot of that reduced. You know, nothing really goes away in that sense. These are all emotions and aspects of people. I think we all have it in certain degrees. It's about like leveling it and controlling it.
I feel you're an evolved guy, man. Like, as in, this is also from the place of knowing you. Not too many. I think women are more self-aware than men in general, very generally speaking. But you don't meet too many guys our age who speak like this, who go that deep into their own minds. How are you now? Like, what's happening in your head, 2022? How are you looking at life and just progress and art and everything put together? What's up?
I'm feeling very energetic this year, actually. That's like the thing. Like I'm roaring to go. Like just like do things, like play tons of shows, like really we're working on putting out a new album. And I truly believe it is like the best work I'm ever gonna put out so far. I feel really good about it. I think like the studio session was like a 2-month long meditation. Like it was so different from all the studio sessions I've done before. Like it was just me, and the producer I worked with is this guy called Ryan Hadlock. He's been in the Seattle scene for years. He did the first Lumineers album, the first Vance Joy album, bunch of other really cool, like he's known for like the folksier stuff, but he's done a bunch of really cool like indie pop and indie rock records of relatively smaller bands, and like really like amazing guy, lots of really good energy and like supremely talented.
2-month long flow state for you.
It was really that. It was 1 month and then 1 month. We took like about like a 3-week, 4-week break in the middle to give, you know, because it's like you record everything and then you kind of like take some time off and listen to that and like take notes and take some, you know, think about it. And then another 4-week stint where we were like fine tuning, like polishing that stuff.
What's it called, the album?
It's called The Way That Lovers Do. Yeah.
And the focus is like English music?
Yeah, it's a fully English album. It's a bunch of songs I've written over the past like 3 years, mostly. Some during the pandemic, some before that. Some of them we played live. Most of them we haven't. Another cool thing about this record is like I feel like every album or single I've put before, we always kind of like tested it live, played a bunch, you know, live and then put it out. And this is the first time like the major chunk of this album is just like nobody's heard it ever. Like not live, not in like a solo performance. Some, so it's just, that's really new for me. And yeah, man.
Has your love life inspired this album?
Some of the songs, yeah. Some of the songs are about like my relationship. Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking about your relationship?
Yeah.
How's your relationship zone now in life?
It's good right now, man. I mean, me and Niharika have been dating for 3 years now. And not 3 years, like little under 3 years. It's good.
Yeah,
We're both
you'll balance each other out, dude.
Yeah.
Like
We're both like, we're both like also like gearing up for a big year ahead of us. Like she might move to London actually for work. I might be moving around. So it might be a little tough for a bit, but yeah.
When you're in love and when you're in stable kind of love like the way you are, does that unlock some new songs and tunes and feelings?
Everything does, man. Actually, any sort of like strong emotion usually like triggers art, I feel like. So whether it's pain, whether it's like extreme joy, whether it's like anxiety.
Do you face criticism like in your professional life? Like do say mainstream Bollywood producers or mainstream label heads, do they criticize you for being you?
I mean, nobody, I don't think anybody ever like criticizes people on their faces, but like you can tell if somebody doesn't like your music. I get criticized by like people on the internet a lot.
Join the club.
I know. It's not like it's just like everybody faces it. I had a phase where I was like, is this only happening to me? And then slowly I started like, oh no, this is happening to like everyone.
Yeah.
So anyway,
the moment you start breaking out and the moment you start going mainstream, there's a lot of people who don't like seeing sort of an artsy person go mainstream.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to be very cool till I became popular. Like I feel like I was one of the most loved YouTubers, and I was America's sweetheart. I was India's sweetheart till I started getting mainstream and people started like recognizing me. And now there's a whole section that just has a problem with like everything I say, but it's a part of this.
It's a part of it. I agree.
Yeah. What do you does it make you feel anything? Like when you see trolling about Prateek Kuhad or when you see mimicry or anything like that, does it make you feel anything at all?
Yeah, I don't like it. Like it doesn't make me feel good for sure. Depends on my day also. Like I feel like sometimes when you're already having a bad day and you see something like that, you're like, man, come on, So, but other times I feel blank about it. Yeah. Mostly now, like I've gotten pretty used to it. So,
I mean, any kind of publicity is good publicity, dude.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. That's a funny adage, but.
No, I know what you mean. And I feel the same way about the trolling I face, that I don't think it affects me and never did, except in year one. It was just new for me and I was like, what the fuck is this? But I've reached a stage where I was just like, oh, okay, that's another one. But on difficult days and, in this whole entrepreneurship YouTube thing, there are a lot of difficult days. If I come across something intense and I'm like, why? There was no need for this. Then I realize, oh, it's probably because I am breaking out again. So it kind of switches in that moment for me. But dude, honestly, like, I mean, I know you don't need to be told this because you are a self-aware guy. But there's a lot of people rooting for you also. So just let that be a reminder. When you see a troll for Prateek Kuhad, there's a lot of people waiting for the next song.
No, I that's what I said. Like now it's the same way. What you said, I feel like this is exactly what happened to me. Like really bad for a bit, slowly got used to it. And now it's like some days, some days if you're having a really bad day at work and everything is going south and then you see something like that, it can be like, a little triggering. That's it. But I also like snap out of it. It's not like I, think about it too much anymore.
What causes you pain at this stage of your life, bro? And then, man, honestly, as a friend, I do feel you hold some pain in your heart and I've never asked you why. But what's the pain in your heart right now? Are you just holding on to it because of your artistry?
No.
Like, then there is some stuff.
I'm very strong. I very strongly feel that narrative needs to be broken about like this thing about,
Toote hue dil se sangeet nikalta.
It's just not true. It's not true. I mean, actually, like when I write, I've almost always been in a really neutral space. Like neither too excited nor depressed really. most of the time. You need like a clear head actually, you know, and you think of ideas and like you use stuff. It's like I've been taking like this music video I was telling you about that we're shooting this week. It's for the second single. I've been taking some acting classes for it, and it made me realize like it's kind of similar, you know. I feel like every art form has overlaps, but it's you know, to explain what I was saying, it's like you put yourself in a certain context as an actor, right? Like say you're like doing a scene about anxiety and you feel anxious for a bit, but like to get into that state, you first have to be in a really neutral state of mind, you know, to be able to act out a scene well. And, you know, I sound like as if I know a lot about acting, but I don't. I've done like 3 workshops. But the one weird thing that I noticed was like, you know, I was getting into these, like when we were like practicing scenes, I was getting into these modes where I was, you know, supposed to act like an anxious person. And I felt that anxiety, you know. And then when I snapped out of it, I was completely neutral. And before that, I was completely neutral. So it's kind of something like that. When you're like writing a song, like, you know, you have to kind of start with like a clean slate first, you know. You have to, and that's it's kind of like meditation, right? You start with a clean state and then you like consciously tap into stuff. You're tapping into a little bit of yourself, a little bit of maybe the energy around you,
a little bit into a memory,
and you do all of that, and then you snap out of it. Otherwise it's gonna like, you know, but you can never get there if I'm constantly like depressed all the time. You know, I'm not gonna be able to do anything else, and that's not healthy. You know, actually you first so this is it's not a good narrative. It's somehow like everybody thinks that like, you know, oh, and a lot of artists, this is another thing, going back to this thing I was talking about, like failure. This is something I found very common in a lot of indie musicians and a lot of artists, including me. I had this, you know, kind of thought process very early on, much before like I wrote Cold Mess also. But like there's this idea that like, you know,
let's hold on to the pain,
like broken heart and like, you know, sadness and like it's very glorified. It's not healthy.
Okay, changing up gears a little bit. How much girl attention do you get, dude, now with all this music and poetry in your art? Do you get
I don't know. I don't know, like
what do you make of it?
I mean, it's like we were talking about this earlier, right? Like I think this happens like with like mainstream success, and also it was kind of there before also. I feel like especially when you're a musician on tour, there's a lot of attention you get from girls. Like
why do you think that is? What is the breakdown of that?
I think you're affecting people. I get attention from boys as well, you know. I mean, I get attention from people. So it's part of it, like when you're on stage.
What's the attraction angle behind that? According to me, it's probably art hits people in some emotional place.
I think it's like, I feel it for people who I see them on stage, and it doesn't even matter if like how much mainstream success you have or don't. Actually, like if you like, if I go to a, you know, show and see somebody performing who just like crushes it, like I get attracted to that person, you know, anybody, even if like, and I don't really care in that moment, like if they are famous or not. So there is something very powerful about like performance,
because
for sure.
Because you're being vulnerable as an artist on stage.
Yeah. I mean, people perform in different ways. Sometimes it's vulnerable. Sometimes it's actually like, you know, like controlling your audience in a sense. Like, you know, actually like you could be a stand-up comic and like making everybody laugh. That's not always vulnerability. That's kind of like really like
power.
It's kind of like power in a sense. Even as a performer, as a songwriter, sometimes you do songs in a certain way. There is a sense of power actually, you know, also. You are being vulnerable, but you're also like
controlling
the room a little bit. If you're impactful enough as a performer. To me, it like happened by chance. Like I didn't really set out to do that. Like I just wanted to like play my songs. But I think like at some point, like because I was so real, like everybody just had to stop and listen. Not always. There's been like crappy shows where nobody listens and stuff. It happens once in a while. But you know, when it does, it's a powerful thing.
How does it feel right now, dude, where things are going like really well? Like, you know, and you've seen years of like things not going according to plan probably. But now all eyes are on you. People want to see what you're creating. People want to see what you're up to. What does that make the guy feel like?
Yeah. So in that sense, like also you said about like, you know, failure before and now, like I feel like it's just contextual, you know. There were different failures that time. Even today, like there are failures, you know, on a and I'm sure you know this, you know, like you said, like, you know, shoots get cancelled, things happen. Like there's like tiny like things that happen every day that make you feel like, you know, and like I feel like we're both broadly like positive people. So in terms of like, you know, attitudinally, so it's like if there's a setback, you just like get up and like do the next thing. But it does affect you a little bit, you know. So they are always like, I think it's just, you know, there are different things that happen now. But you know, overall it's like, overall obviously like it's so much better than it used to be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When we were hanging out at your place, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Where we had that Indian meal we ordered
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Sigdi in Bandra.
Yeah.
I was eating and we were enjoying ourselves and we were talking about shit. And you love food, dude. You love talking about food. And I had this burning question in my head on that day where I asked you something about being Prateek Kuhad, and you got really uncomfortable, dude. And I was saving this for a podcast. Like, I wanted to ask you why you didn't like the idea of talking about Prateek Kuhad, the brand, and Prateek Kuhad, the musician. Like, there was a part of you that just got really withdrawn. And I want to know why. Because personally, I come from a place of loving the attention on me, dude. It's why I became a YouTuber. So it's as an artist, I just want to wrap my head around that.
I'm not crazy about the attention beyond a point. Like I don't like dislike it, but I want to do well. I want to make money. You know, I feel like that's an important thing that like kind of like, you know, keeps you going in life, and it's like just buys you a little bit of freedom basically. That's the reason. It's not like because, you know, I want status or anything like that. It just like buys you freedom, you know. Money buys you time, buys you freedom, and it also like enables me to do more of what I do. So that's something that you know, I always wanted, and I wanted like my music to reach as many ears as possible in this world. Like that's the other thing I really wanted. And that's, you know, in a small way happened. There's still a long way to go, but like the attention aspect of it, like I actually in the beginning didn't want it at all. Like when I started off, like I wanted to be a songwriter. I had a lot of social anxiety, like I mean, like I could not like have a straight conversation with people in my like early 20s. I was very anxious. I went through this phase. I was not like that in school. Something in college like did that to me, and then when I like kind of went back into the real world again after college, like I realized that I have so much social anxiety. Where is this coming from? I don't know.
It was like a bad relationship or something?
No, it was not. Actually, I had I'm really good friends with my you know, ex-girlfriend from college still, and we had a really very nice relationship actually. So I don't know what it was, honestly. It was definitely not that. It wasn't like don't know what it was, you know. Maybe it was just like 5 years of living alone in New York and becoming a new person completely. You know, I grew up in Jaipur, and the first time I went to the US was for NYU, and then I just spent the next 5 years there. You know, completely like different worlds. At the time, I did not realize how much of a cultural shift it was. You know, I was like, oh, I've seen America in movies. Like, I know what this is about. No, you don't. Like, you know, like that doesn't give you an accurate picture. So maybe it was that. I don't know. I honestly don't know why, but like I definitely had that. And so when I first started doing this and I started getting the attention, I was like, whoa, I don't know if I want this. I just want to write songs. I want to be in the studio. I want to like make music. I want to like, you know, put lots of records out and like make money so I could put more records out. And like, I want to be this like behind the scenes, like songwriter, producer, and like write for other people and for film. But that just didn't happen actually. Like, it's just like I started performing live because it was a great way to make money and also to put my music out. And I started just like, people loved my live shows. I was very surprised because I was conventionally never a good performer. And I got a lot of feedback in the beginning also saying like, you don't talk to your audiences and you don't like tell any anecdotes and you just play your songs. And I was like, yeah, that's all I can do. So I just did that. My sets would be just like, how's it going, guys? Play the whole set. Goodbye. Wow. For the long time. Now also, I'm still not the kind of person who tells long anecdotes. I'm a little bit more interactive with my crowd. I've become more comfortable. Over the years, it changed. I started liking it. I like performing live a lot more than I used to. I am a lot more comfortable around people. I was just telling you outside also. I feel like the most social I've ever felt in my life. I actually enjoy people's company a lot more. I'm comfortable with myself, comfortable being around new people. So it has changed a lot.
You know how I feel around you as a friend?
Huh.
When I look at you, I feel like I'm gonna beat up anyone who comes to hit you. Like, that's how I feel about it. I feel like protective about you.
That's sweet, bro.
In a way, bro. I don't know why, dude. But there's just some I want to hit people who come at you. Don't know why. But anyway, go on, dude. Like it doesn't come through you. Like been with you in social situations and it's a lot of fun being around you, dude. Like, I mean,
because you've seen me in like, in the last 3-4 years, it had already changed by then. Like my early 20s were like that a lot. So I was just giving context of like, the initial years of my songwriting and like thing, I didn't want that. And then suddenly all this attention happened. And that actually like 2016, 2017 is when like it started happening, like attention. It was before Cold Mess, but I'd put out, Raat Raazi got some attention. It became slightly popular. Tum Jab Paas, Tune Kaha. I had a few like hits and in the indie scene especially. And I was like, playing big shows, fairly big shows by that point. And I started getting attention. And that's also what got me used to it. Like just the attention, like being in social situations, having to go to like after parties and like other events and, things like that.
Which Hindi song is the closest to your heart? Tune Kaha?
Probably Raat Raazi.
Okay. Why?
One of them. It's one of the songs that's really close to my heart. It was a very fulfilling writing process. It took me a couple of weeks. I remember like this day. I distinctly remember this. I was in college when I wrote that, last year of college, and I was trying to finish the song. I'd written like 60% of it. I'd been working on it for the preceding 3-4 weeks. And, sometimes you just get this like rush. And I was in college. I was like doing interviews for my job that I wanted to go to. And I was studying like math and economics. So I didn't write all day long. I wrote sometimes. And I remember like I really wanted to finish this passage, this song, like one of the verses or the chorus or something. And like there was a lot of noise in my apartment. Like people were on their phones. And like I was like, oh, there's no quiet space. What do I do? So I literally took like the recording of the song that I had on my phone, a notebook and a pen, and I went out and I started looking for a place to write. And it was nighttime in New York and there was no place, like mostly like, again, like noisy bars or restaurants, no like quiet cafes. Everything had shut down by then, like 9 or 10, So I just walked around on the street, literally, like I looped around a block, I remember. And I was just writing like while like walking around, standing, finishing the song. And it was really fun, man. Like I still like cherish that memory and look back at it. Like it was like a very, very satisfying when I actually finished that song that day and came back and I played it that night. And I was like, oh, like this is so great.
What about Tum Jab Paas aati hai?
Tum Jab Paas.
What's the story there?
That's one of the first songs I wrote on the piano. I had just started learning the piano and I would always wanted to learn the piano. And I just couldn't. I just always kept failing at it. And then like in my mid-20s, pretty late in my life is when I learned, basic piano for the first time. And that was one of the first songs I wrote on it.
What's the story behind the song?
It was just like...
you tapped into some childhood emotion?
No. It's about like... the video is done like that. We went back into that 90s kind of vibe. Just, it's not because of like the song really. It was actually weirdly about the same relationship that I wrote Cold Mess about. So, because it had good parts in it as well.
Wow. Whoa. Dude, you have some mind, man. You have some creative process. For me, I mean, one of the joys of my life is both knowing Prateek Kuhad, the guy as a friend, but also knowing the guy, in behind Prateek Kuhad. Like, there's a lot that people don't know about you that probably people who've hung out with you in social situations do know. You are kind of a goofy guy in a very positive way. But dude, I wish you the best, man. Like,
thanks,
in terms of your art, in terms of who you are as a guy, I've always seen growth every time I've met you. There's always something new happening. You're going for the next thing always. And that's the big lesson from you to the indie music scene, but generally to all artists out there, dude. There's a lot to learn from you as an artist, brother. So
thanks, bro.
Wanna ask
Appreciated
you,
it.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. Like where a bunch of those people are like cheering for Prateek Kuhad and his next album. But good luck with it, man. Do you have any signing notes for people listening in till this point?
No, that's it, man. I mean, I guess the biggest thing happening in my life right now is, The Way That Lovers Do. Comes out in on the 20th of May.
Crazy.
And I hope everybody loves it, man. I hope you guys listen to it. I think it's a really special album.
Yeah, it's come out of a state of flow. It's going to be special. It's going to be big.
I think so.
Good luck, brother. Good luck with everything. That was the conversation for today. I feel, especially when it comes to men, more men need to engage in vulnerable conversation like this. And we don't see that out there as much. We do see it with older men, but not so much men in their 20s. Often guys struggle to express themselves emotionally. They do it sometimes through their professions, sometimes through their music, sometimes through poetry, sometimes through writing. But it is a bit of a struggle to express yourself when you're a guy. That's why so many women complain about the men not being emotionally expressive enough. It's one of those modern day urban problems. I feel that if you're a guy who struggles to express himself, or if you're a lady who knows a guy like that, then it's these kind of conversations which act as a catalyst for your own mind and emotions. That's what I absolutely love about Prateek Kuhad. He's so vulnerable, he's so emotional, he's so expressive that when I speak to him, I get to learn about my own mind, my own vulnerabilities, my own emotions. That's why I love calling this man a brother of mine. I love you, Mr. Prateek Kuhad. His new album is now out. I'll link all the relevant links down below. Please check out his magical music. Lots more fantastic conversations with musicians will come your way on the Ranveer show very soon.